person, the non-professional, non-medical professional person in mind. As we've said over and over and over again, we have a dearth of healthcare professionals. We don't have enough facilities in the country. It's a sad way of saying that, but that's the reality. And so in the final analysis, it's up to you to know what it takes to make the right decisions, take the right actions about your health. And health is a large word, as you've probably heard before. It applies to in so many different areas. And as we as black people, we have specific areas in which we are more prone to specific diseases. So today we're going to be talking about the eye. Now think about this. The eye, I just confirmed this with our guest, from our guest today, and he confirmed that over 70% of the brain's processing power is devoted to eyesight and the human eye. Think about that. Something we take for granted all the while, and yet it's so important, not just to our brains, but to our health. So I'm just going to quickly say a few things about our guest, and we will jump right into it. Dr. Ndubisi Okonkwo is a consultant ophthalmic surgeon and vitreoretinal specialist at the Eye Foundation Hospital and Eye Foundation Retina Institute. He is the director of postgraduate training at the Eye Foundation Center for the Prevention of Blindness. That's a big word there. So, sir, Dr. Ndubisi, Dr. Okonkwo, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Dr. Ajibade, for having me.
Well, we really appreciate it. I know it's just in Abuja for a few days, and you've been extremely busy. I came to visit your clinic yesterday, your hospital yesterday, excuse me, and yes, it was. I could see that there was a lot of activity. Thankfully, we have you today. I have you for a little time. Let's talk about eye health in Nigeria. Before off camera, we're talking about how, we have paucity of ophthalmologists, and there are a lot of different diseases that Nigerians are particularly prone to. So where should we start with all this?
Well, again, I want to say thank you for bringing this up and for some of the comments you've made at the outset. I think the topic is very timely, your health in your hands. And I think that to say the least, we really need to take our health and our eyes in our own hands. And that's because over the years I've seen that for most Nigerians, we tend to take a lot of other things in our hands, but we don't take our health in our hands. We take our finances in our hands. Of course, we have to take our education in our hands. And
our electricity
in our hands. But, to a large extent, your health is your responsibility. And I've seen, as we will discuss, that our health-seeking behavior has got a lot to do with the outcome. And just as we were talking off camera, we had a study, and this study was really appealing to me to see that the average duration of times patients will present to the hospital to seek help was about 22 months. That implies that the patient's eye symptoms may have started 22 months before he eventually decides to come to the hospital. And that really is way beyond what we will expect from a society like ours, from Nigeria. Don't forget that Nigeria is a leading black nation.
That's right.
And so whatever happens in Nigeria, you can extrapolate as happening to Africans.
That's right.
So we need to improve on this. But what we have is that a lot of Nigerians, when they have an eye problem, end up going to the pharmacy or somewhere else, and they get medications. And even some cases, even worse still, you have a situation where some health seeking behavior are completely wrong. I'll give you an example. Yes. Someone has a red eye, and he or she is advised to instill drops of urine into the eye. So this is completely unacceptable.
Drops of urine?
Drops of urine. And this we've seen. This is still the practice that goes on. In some cases, the women put in drops of their breast milk. This is still not allowed, but it's still far better than putting urine into the eye.
Right.
Okay.
Why is urine a bad thing? I mean,
Right.
For other than the obvious reasons.
I will tell you the reason why this is so. And the big reason is that in the urine, contrary to what is being said about urine contain a lot of good elements that can have therapeutic effect. Urine, as we know, can be contaminated. In the worst case scenario, you can have terrible infections, and the one that comes to mind very quickly is gonorrhea. You could get STDs, sexually transmitted diseases, in the urine, and you could get staphylococcal, you could get gram-negative organisms in the urine, and this, when instilled into the eye, can cause very, very fulminating infection. If it's a gonococcal keratoconjunctivitis that the child or the patient has, then the patient stands the risk of having a perforation of the cornea and an opaque cornea and loses vision. So just that simple act, the simple act of instilling urine into an eye that is red can escalate the problem so much more that the patient loses his eye. Whereas if he had seen the ophthalmologist, all he might have needed was some antibiotic eye drops or maybe some anti-allergy eye drops.
Right.
And that would have solved the problem. But the problem has escalated just by virtue of the fact that the person who the mother or the father or the person in question decided to use drops of urine into the eye. In some cases, actually, we've seen people who use other things apart from urine and breast milk. We've seen patients who instill water from the battery.
What?
I can tell. I have seen such cases. So it's outrageous what people can put into the eyes.
Oh my goodness.
So it's really about the eye, your eye being in your hands. So I think that's a very timely thing, that we have to come to terms with the fact that whatever we do to our eyes, whatever we do concerning our health, regarding to our health, it really has to do with our hands. So at the end of the day, you really, the onus lies on you to take the right decisions about your health, about your eyes, and so you can get a good outcome.
Absolutely. Now, you are a vitreoretinal specialist.
Yeah.
Before I see we have a model, an eye model here. Before we go into really looking at the eye model, tell us what that actually means.
Right. So this is being a vitreoretinal specialist has to do with specializing in the part of the eye that we call the retina. Now, the retina is like the film of the camera. Imagine that the eye is like a camera, which is essentially what it is.
Yeah.
The eye is a magnificent I mean, when you think about the eye and you wonder about the architecture of the eye, it's a magnificent structure. And the part of it that is at the back that captures the image, just like the film in the camera, is the retina. So next to the retina, cushioning the retina, is the vitreous.
Right.
So that's why it's called the vitreoretina. The vitreous and the retina. So the vitreous is the fluid behind that cushions the retina, and the retina is like the film that gets the image.
I think this is a good time for us to actually look at what you're actually saying.
Yes.
I know you're dealing with the back. Let's look at that back, but let's go back to the front.
Right.
So you explain what we really understand what you're saying.
Okay. So this part of the eye is called the retina.
That orangey part.
The orangey part. And as you can see, it has blood vessels which perfuse it and keep it alive, because it's a very living structure. It's very highly metabolic. In other words, it uses up a lot of energy, a lot of resources to keep the retina alive and to keep it functioning. So the image is relayed onto the retina, specifically onto a part of the retina we call the macula. So from the macula, it goes to the optic nerve, and then from the optic nerve, it goes to the brain for interpretation. Okay, so now there are other parts of the retina. Before the image comes to the retina, the image that is formed, so the image, the perception of the world that you see, has to go through. It's like a camera. That's what the eye is. The eye is like a camera. So you have the two parts of it. When you take these two parts, the front of the eye we call the cornea, and I just fit it right there, and you can see it's transparent. It has to be transparent and kept alive by the nutrition and the nutrients that come to it.
And that corresponds with what in the camera?
And these two correspond to the lens.
I see, okay.
So that's the lens that helps you to focus. The cornea and the natural lens. The natural lens is crystalline and has to be clear. Mm-hmm. So the cornea and the lens together give you the power that bends the ray of light, bends the image to fall on the retina. Then from the retina, it goes to the optic nerve, which is a bundle of nerve fibers, more like the wire you have at home, and you open it up and you see small, tiny, weeny fibers in it. So these fibers then run all the way to the brain, and so the image gets relayed to the brain and then gets interpreted, and that's how we see.
Got it.
That's how we see.
So in this highly simplified version of what happens.
Yes.
All right, folks, we have to take a break now, so don't go away. Welcome back. We are Dr. Okonkwo is taking us on a fascinating description of the eye, so we're going to get right back into it. So, Doc.
Right, thank you very much. As I was saying, now most Nigerians will visit the ophthalmologist for complaints of a red eye. And
is that the commonest complaint?
Yes, pretty much. And pretty much red eye and then inability to see clearly, which may be as a result of glasses, the patient needing glasses. Okay. So I think the glasses may rank very high. The glasses rank very highly. But you see a lot of Nigerians who have a red eye, or they have some itching in the eye, or have blurry vision, and that often could relate to the red eye part of it, and the itchy relate to things that have to do with maybe an infection, a mild infection, or allergy. Maybe something getting into the eye and then sensitizing the eye to form. Very common with kids to get this allergy, which they tend to outgrow as they get older. Dry eyes, and I must emphasize the importance of lubricating the eyes, especially these days. We have spent long hours on our phones and on the computers. In the past, when I was a child, in those days, you read, the light comes on the book, and then from the book goes into your eye. But now it goes directly into your eye. And so we emphasize to our patients that some of them have to get things to coat to protect their eyes from protect their eyes from the effect of the rays coming from the computers and from their phones. Right. And they could get glasses which incorporate into them anti-reflective coatings. So these anti-reflective coatings help to take away the glare from the phones and then from the computers. And then it's important to also emphasize the need to blink often so that your eyes gets moisturized. Your eyes gets re-moisturized when you blink. Right. And for the older patients, you might need to get lubricant drops. The lubricant drops help to moisturize the eye so that you don't have symptoms like, due to dryness, like foreign body sensation, itching in the eyes. All these are symptoms you get.
Do you have any particular ones you can just quickly mention?
Well, there are a whole range of. I don't want to promote any pharmaceutical right now, but once you go to the pharmacy and request for tear supplements, artificial tear supplements, you'll be able to get your hands. And I will emphasize also that the best tear supplements are the ones that are preservative free, because these drops are drops that you tend to put in frequently, and so the preservatives in those ones that have got preservatives can also be
those chemicals,
toxic, irritants themselves. Yeah. Yes. Right. So moving on from the front of the eye, we will quickly go into something that is very common, and that's what we call cataracts. And the cataract is a big word, and I dare say that cataract surgery is still the most commonest surgery done worldwide. And cataract is...
You mean eye surgery or surgery?
Across board.
Across board,
yeah.
Really?
Every year in, year out. And that's because you have an aging, as the population ages, cataract comes. Right. And I tell my patients that cataract is more often than not something that will come to everyone. But the point is whether the cataract is visually significant. So the cataract develops as a result of, in many cases, as a result of aging. We could get cataract also in newborn children, in children who have developed cataract maybe because of some lack of some hormones, enzymes in their lack of some enzymes, or due to an infection.
Prematurity,
retinopathy, prematurity, and all that.
Right.
That could give the patient cataract.
Right.
But by and large, the commonest type of cataract that you will encounter will be the age-related cataract,
right,
which comes purely due to age.
Got it.
Now,
and basically, what does that look like? It becomes cloudy?
It becomes cloudy,
right,
yes, indeed. It becomes cloudy, and there could be all kinds of spots, specks, blurriness of the lens. And when it gets blurry, then the vision begins to become dimmer, impaired. You get some you get the patient saying that he doesn't see as clearly. He finds it difficult to identify faces. You know, he needs someone to come very close, up close, before he knows this is this person, or he sees the person but he's a bit fuzzy.
Right.
And when it's like that, and the patient can no longer function properly, then you may need to, the patient may be advised to do cataract surgery. Cataract surgery in this day and era has really gone through a whole range of things. It's very advanced these days, and cataract can pretty much be dealt with. I remember during the time of my training, then cataract was being done without an intraocular lens. But the way cataract surgery is being done now, you remove the lens, okay, and you replace it with something else that is just as good. Okay,
like a prosthesis.
Something like that. We call it an intraocular implant.
Okay.
And so there are very many designs of intraocular implants that we have.
Okay.
And these intraocular implants stay for life. I see my patients asking, "Oh, doctor, do I have to change this implant over time?" The intraocular implant, when inserted into the eye, a lot of care has to be put into implanting it. You have to measure the right power, and once it's implanted, it stays in for life. But I must also emphasize that one of the things that I see now happening is that we are going back to the era where we see a lot of quackery. And as I was talking to you off camera, we have situations where some of our patients come to the clinic and they've undergone an ancient process called couching. And this was a pre-medieval way of cataract surgery, of doing cataract surgery, in which this lens is pushed right into the back of the eye. And I think that many of the patients who have this are deceived into having this because they are told that it will cost less, and they're told that it can be done in their houses. So the person who goes from house to house to do this couching, he's learnt this trade from his father or from someone else. And these are by no means, they're not doctors, but they've learnt this art of being able to push the lens. And so when they push the cloudy lens away, it goes right into the vitreous. In some cases it is successful, in few cases successful, and so the person who has had a successful procedure now goes to bring someone else and says, "Yes, I had my surgery," and they are called doctors, but they are by no means any doctor. They are not doctors anyhow. And so, when the procedure doesn't go well, what happens is this lens comes right to the front. Really? Yes, and it damages a very important structure called the cornea, and it makes the cornea to turn hazy and white. And it also it causes a very high rise in intraocular pressure, which damages the nerves. Now, I must emphasize that we must do everything we can to stop this practice, because it's a cake, it is destructive, and it doesn't tell well of us as a people. And this is a practice that was being done many years BC, before Christ, and we're still being practiced right now in our country. And in fact, the appalling things that I've seen, very enlightened, very educated people who have had this practice, and some of them, their eyes have been ruined.
Ruined? You mean
yes.
It can be
remedied?
You can be remedied.
Very, very often it is difficult to remedy these situations.
Oh dear.
Very often.
Oh dear.
Very often. And then I will go quickly into another condition which I'm sure a lot of us will know about, and this is called glaucoma. Glaucoma is being tagged the silent thief of sight, and it's known as the silent thief of sight because very often there will be no symptoms at the early stages. And what is glaucoma? Glaucoma has to do with damage to these nerves. About 1.2 million nerve fibers tied up in a bundle called the optic nerve. Usually the nerve fibers we have stay throughout our lifetime.
Okay.
We may lose a little bit, imperceptible quantity of nerves. But what happens is that in patients who have glaucoma, they lose their nerve fibers faster than they should be, such that before their time in this world expires, they've lost everything. And once they lose everything, then they go blind.
Mm-hmm.
They begin to go blind when they've lost more than 50%. They begin to have visual symptoms.
Oh, wow.
So, if they've not lost up to 50%, they may have no visual symptoms.
I see.
And that's where the challenge lies. Because a patient who has got glaucoma at an early stage may know nothing about it.
Right.
And that's why it's so important to check your eyes out.
Right.
So, because if you check your eyes out and you have your eyes dilated, the doctor may be able to see the nerves and suspect that you have glaucoma.
Right.
If he suspects you have glaucoma, then he puts you through some tests to confirm that you have glaucoma, and then you can start therapy. Now, in some cases, glaucoma may be associated with a high intraocular pressure. Mm-hmm. The pressure within the eye may be high. Mm-hmm. But in many cases, we see these days, in fact, that's one of the very important things that I've seen. Many cases of glaucoma never have a high intraocular pressure when they present to the doctor. So if you come to the doctor and he checks your pressures may not be high. But when he looks at your nerves may show signs of damage. It is possible that your pressures have been high at some other time. At
some point, right.
And inflicted on the damage. So it's really important to see your doctor every year. Even if you have no problems with your vision, I think I must stress the fact that it's important you have a proper eye screen, which includes not just checking the pressure, but having your eyes dilated and having your nerves examined. Mm-hmm. Don't forget that your eye and your health is in your hands. So it is your responsibility. Once you start getting to the age of about 35 to 40, you should be having a dilated eye examination. And especially so if you have a family history of glaucoma. Those who have family history of glaucoma, we know are prone to it. Those who are short-sighted, who are myopic, we call them, they're also prone to this. And because glaucoma is such a devastating problem, and is actually the commonest cause of irreversible blindness.
The commonest cause?
The commonest cause of irreversible blindness.
Wow.
So it's something that every Nigerian, and it's more aggressive in blacks. So every black man, every Nigerian should be on their high alert for glaucoma. Every eye care practitioner should screen for glaucoma all the time. And I think that this is, if you're going to go with nothing else, go with this message, that glaucoma is a silent thief of sight. Glaucoma will steal your vision away. Glaucoma will cause you a lot of misery, and you need to know if you have glaucoma or not. Now, you may not have glaucoma at this eye screen, and that's why we say screen every year. It doesn't mean that you may not have glaucoma next year.
Absolutely.
All right.
Wow. That is important. Folks, you've heard it. Glaucoma is a silent thief of sight, and you need to check it regularly. You need to check your eyes regularly. I didn't know it was 35. At the age of 35, I was thinking maybe 50 or 60. Shows my ignorance too. But hey, so from 35 onwards. So folks, we have come to the end of this segment. Please join us next week for the conclusion of this talk on your eye, the human eye in health and in sickness. Thank you.